Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown of the Tamers. On the left-hand side, we have the Dragon Tamer and Prince Imrik the Mighty, led by myself up against Omegon, and the new Rakarth, who is, of course, the Beast Tamer. Will he be able to subdue Imrik's dragon in the fight? Only time shall tell. So let's have a look over the builds, and we've got a pretty funky build all round, and as with Imrik, all of his builds when he's on his Mighty Dragon, he is going to have to carry the day if we're going to be successful, because he is so goddamn expensive. Our front line is a mixture of spearmen and rangers, just incredibly cheap and cheerful. Nice mix of, anti-large as well as anti-infantry troops who aren't going to be costing too much out of our purse there. With a mage of high magic as well as a mage of life magic, unfortunately I ended up running out of time, so I do not recommend bringing the amount of spells I brought, but at least I suppose we do have a wide variety of spells to bring to the battlefield in a number of different situations. We are coming with Earthblood, Flesh to Stone, as well as a Regrowth on our mage of life magic, and our mage of high magic as well is going to be coming with Apotheosis, Hand of Glory, as well as Tempest. Our idea was to catch Rakarth in the sky if he's on his Manticore or Mighty Brachus Dragon, and then whack him with Imrik. As from my testing, I can certainly prove that Imrik does beat Brachus very effectively up in the skies, Rakarth falling down into the muck. So we do have Imrik, as I've said already, coming in with Star Lance as well as Dragon Horn, but more importantly, the Lord of Dragons, an incredibly powerful hex which can be popped on literally anything that is enemy. You can pop it on a monster, you can pop it on a character, anything goes when it comes down to Imrik. Over on this flank, we have triple Illyrian Reaver archers to help deal with Dark Rider repeater crossbows where possible, and they're going to be escorted by double Reavers themselves. For my opponent's force, he does have a big dragon up in the skies, but it is not Rakarth. Instead, down low, he has Cold One Knights protecting some Dark Riders, and a big, fat, disgustingly angry black dragon here to rip and tear at the throats of Imrik and destroy his enemies. It looks like one of his horns has glitched out of existence, which is pretty hilarious there. And of course, he just comes with Noxious Breath. But I love this combination of bringing the big black dragon up in the sky and rolling dirty with Rakarth down on the ground, because Rakarth on his dragon isn't the most powerful duelist. Of course, he does hit pretty hard, he's still on a black dragon, but Whiplash can be used on the feral dragon by itself, improving its damage output, and Rakarth can be then used as a more of a support character, which is certainly the way I think we're going to see him used the most in competitive. He comes in with the Beast Lord Gaze, as well as a Beast Slayer, and he's going to be on the Scourge Runner Chariot. We have to see how it performs. I've been a little bit critical in my testing video that I did yesterday, I believe, of the Scourge Runner Chariot. I think Rakarth's certainly going to be best on his Manticore, but I have to see if my opponent can prove me wrong here. Always down to me being shown new stuff. For the enemy infantry line, we do have Dread Spears with Harganeth Executioners, as well as just a bucket ton of Witch Elves. It looks like 4 units of the Naked Ladies. These guys come in with 85 armor, but they will rip and tear my front line to shreds in a matter of seconds. And if they can surround Imrik, poison him, and turn him into a rampage, I'm going to be in big, big troubles. It looks like we have another beastie as well. It wouldn't be a Dark Elf build with Rakarth if you didn't have 1 or 2 gigantic creatures. So alongside the Mighty Black Dragon, we have a War Hydra, one of the coolest models, honestly, in the game. I say that every single time I do a replay. There's always cool stuff to look at. Coming in with Fiery Breath, and of course another takes its place. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. So of course we are going to be pushing up on the right hand side, trying to harass where my opponent's dragon was and drive him off. We're also getting a nice little bit of poke damage onto the Cold One Knights. Now at this moment, when I see my opponent's build, of course I am not going to win the infantry fight. So I have one objective I need to secure, and that's to kill anything which can hurt Imrik, and then allow Imrik to carry the day. And the main threat, of course, is going to be the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. Imrik cannot catch them particularly easily, so we're trying to force them off with our Reavers. We overextend a little bit, but likewise so does my opponent in a counter-attacking sense. He comes in with the Black Dragon, trying to land on the Reavers and do some nice damage, and this is absolutely perfect for me. Both my mages do ride forth, sallying past the retreating Elves into the Hellfire itself to pop a big fat Overcast Tempest on the Black Dragon. Looks like Rakarth trying to float over here to perhaps support and buff the dragon itself. And in comes Imrik flying up and over the brow through the fire and the flames of the Tempest, and pop in a nasty Lord of the Dragons on the Black Dragon. And within 1 or 2 huge hits, the dragon is already suffocating really badly. He does land down on the Reavers, and I really like this play by my opponent, because sometimes your attack animations do get a little bit janky. Imrik swoops up and over, so he's enabled to pull back to freedom. But luckily for me, a big fat attack animation comes in the back, and that is a very expensive tool of my opponent's build. Taken out immediately. Imrik will, of course, not be allowing him to escape. Coming with some big more snaps in the back, and should be able to escort him off the battlefield. Elite Reavers trying desperately to get behind my opponent where possible so I can really harass the Dark Riders, but it looks like they have been caught and kind of dragged back. There's a really funny bug at the moment in the game, which I'm sure will be fixed relatively soon, that when Elite Reavers die, they die in the same way as the Dark Elf, like, Witch Cavalry. I forget their name off the top of my head. And they, like, explode in, like, puffs of pink mist. It's really bizarre. You can kind of see it going down in the distance, like the Doomfire Warlocks. That's what I'm thinking of. In the front line, Rangers do try to slam onto the Witch Elves and do some pretty decent damage. Elite Reavers as well. We're attempting to cycle charge into the front line, but of course they do rampage, and we're chucking absolutely everything into this engagement to try and hold the enemy back to buy time for Imrik to return to the fray. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to catch the Black Dragon, so had to escort it all the way off the edge of the battlefield, and that was, of course, a big problem, as the rest of our build is crumbling. Wherever Imrik is not, the enemy does prosper, such as games where Imrik do go. Spearmen are lane here, Rangers faring slightly better. They are damage dealers themselves. We see some awesome hacking and slashing coming in with their dual blades. But unfortunately, the daggers and the spears of the Dark Elves are simply too powerful. War Hydra is also having a whale of a time. Yes, it's surrounded by spearmen, but it won't mind too much. Nothing here which can punch incredibly hard and really whittle it down quick enough that its regen can't come into the fray. We do pop a extended flesh to stone for some reason on our Rangers. I suppose we wanted just to pin these troops in as long as possible to enable Imrik to come in and hopefully do a big fat breath attack down the line. In the distance, the mages do watch from above, and a huge breath attack from the Star Dragon does come down, hitting the Hargonic Executioners, breaking them down to about half health. Huge shot there, up to 48 kills from the Mighty Lord himself. This is how I assume all Elvish mages fight, just kind of sitting on a highbrow somewhere, overviewing the battle, occasionally casting a spell and then running away. The Mighty Imrik does come crash down upon Rakarth, trying to do some nice damage. A big attack animation does swoop in. Rakarth down below half health rather quickly. Imrik still hits like an absolute truck. The Dragon Horn had been popped as well, increasing his melee attack to 98. Very scary stuff on a unit which can hit this hard. Elite Reaver Archers once again continue to force off the Dark Riders before focusing down the Witch Elves. And we have a big problem, such as all dragons. They really struggle to get back up in the air if anyone's kind of nipping at their heels and tail. And that's just what these Cold War Knights are doing. So unfortunately for us, the Elite Reavers are going to have to sacrifice themselves in to bog down the Cold War Knights. You shall not be forgotten, of course, as they are rampaged and slaughtered to the last elf by the ferocious Cold War Knights and Witch Elves. Imrik will remember the deed, though, and their heroics to come back and avenge them later on, hopefully. Elite Reaver Archers continue to rain fire down from the skies, but they are getting relatively low on ammunition at this point. We do another big fat breath attack down on top of the Cold War Knights, nowhere near as nice as the previous one. You want to be kind of a little bit further back where we did pop it, but I think something was on our way, so we flew forward. Shooting directly down on something is far better against characters, where shooting along the battle line obviously is better against infantry. So at this point, the balance of power is in our favour, but I'm not feeling too good. We're running out of ammunition on a lot of our troops, and then all we have really is Imrik to try and carry the day, and he is pretty squishy. So we're going to try and use our added mobility, float over to this flank on top of the War Hydra, drop Lord of Dragons, try to finish it off like we did that Black Dragon incredibly early on in the game. However, Witch Elves are here, and we have now been rampaged. We have to pop Flesh of Stone, Regrowth, as I know the pain is about to emerge. Rakarth charging in fearlessly on his mighty chariot, as Witch Elves and a mixture of Hargonic Executioners and Spearmen decide to come in and surround the mighty Dragon Prince. Regrowth and Flesh of Stone obviously keeping us alive. 140 armor is certainly no joke. We're desperately trying to pull back at this moment. We do decide to pull it towards our own forces, so if need be, we can repeat the same trick with Reavers darting in and bogging in the enemy. But it looks like we are able to escape with some more Reavers once again being used in a sacrificial sense. Up on the high ground, we're just kind of rallying our troops for the most part at the moment, just recovering their strength and their wits, allowing us to do another big fat breath attack down the line, roasting the Cold War Knights as well as some of those Witch Elves there. Elite Reaver Archers trying to dart past the enemy once again to force off the Dark Rise and repeat crossbows where possible. And Imrik is still relatively healthy at the moment. 4,647 health is certainly no joke. There's a lot of nasty Dark Elf units left, particularly in the form of the War Hydra and the Witch Elves, who can poison us and get us into some pretty bad engagements. Up on the high ground, the Mage of High Magic has just popped all of their Book of Heroth, and so has our Mage of Life, as they do float away. Once again, this was a bit of a mistake, of course, bringing two mages. I don't often recommend it, unless I was just going to bring the Mage of High Magic simply with Tempest, but I did run out of time, unfortunately, in the opening parts of the setting up of the battles. Limerick Archers Army chasing off the Dark Riders here, driving them away from the field as they do flee in terror. -12 leadership on those guys. They're certainly not going to be coming back. Now it's going to pit Imrik against, you know, a big old fat blob. He's done pretty well so far, isolating the Cold One Knights down here, as again, they are one of the main threats to him, terrifying them away. And I see Rakarth has overextended, trying to chase it down. The Mage of High Magic, who does pop an Apotheosis on Imrik. He's now received an Earth Blood, an Apotheosis, and a Regrowth on him today. And he's coming over, floating, trying to slay the Beast Tamer, trying to show that you can win through the power of loving dragons rather than whipping them into submission. And this War Hydra is seeing the power Imrik does possess, but is at the moment remaining loyal to Rakarth. We do fly back over once again to try and isolate some more troops down on this flank. There was some rallying spearmen. No point to simply dive into this big scary engagement. Finish off the enemy troops, push that balance power as heavily as I can in my favour. Then we commit to the final fight where hopefully we can rout off a lot of the enemy troops. You can see their leadership is already getting pretty low. Rakarth was sneaking a little ahead of his army, so just in case I pulled back Imrik so I could charge him in the rear if need be. He does pull it off eventually, starting to fall back behind his own troops rather wisely. Good micro there by my opponent. Imrik is simply going to walk through this formation, doing a nice little bit of damage before flying up into the skies, looking to hunt down his main prey. Imrik has, best to say, a little bit of an ego, so he certainly doesn't want anyone else facing Rakarth in hand-to-hand combat, so he is going to be launching himself down into the fray of all of these dangerous enemies, going straight after the Beast Tamer himself. We're also going to be popping a nice little hill down, and a big snap of the jaws of the mighty Star Dragon does crush that chariot under jaw and tooth. My opponent does decide to throw in the tower, but pretty much all of his forces at this point have either broken or shattered. The War Hydra wavering as the last unit left, with Lord of the Dragons popped on it. There was no hope left, and the mighty Imrik does claim victory. Very close game, very well played to Omegon as well. Throughout the whole battle, it was, I mean, you can see my entire army is just nuked to death. There's a couple of beat-up Reavers and our hero core left, but Imrik blowing the horn in the deep one last time to claim victory, and he is still an absolute powerhouse. And I don't think either of these lords are going to be super competitive, but they are pretty niche, can work in some situations, and are pretty fun all round. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll look through damage value and all that good stuff in just a second, but if you did enjoy, feel free to hit that big old thumbs up button. It certainly helps push the video out to more people where possible, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, yeah, we do drop videos every single day and 1 or 2 live streams a week. I am going to be playing my last Warhammer World Championship games today, hopefully, fingers crossed. So there will be a live stream of all of them on Monday. I'll keep you guys updated on the time here on the channel. And if you want to send replays into the channel, get involved in tournaments that I do host, there's links down below to my Discord, as well as links to Patreon and other ways you can support the channel in a, apart from, just by tuning in and giving a thumbs up and all that good stuff. But wait, as for Omegon, nice work. Rakarth getting in with a relatively solid 1,226 damage value, over 5,000 damage dealt, and 52 kills. Of course, he is bringing those buffs to the fray as well, helping the War Hydra perform even better than it would have normally, as well as the mighty Black Dragon. Unfortunately, I don't think the Squadron mount in general for any of the Dark Elf Lords is a very good mount option, because you don't do enough damage output with your single crossbow. It's kind of like having a third of a unit of Scourge Runners, and then at the end of the day, you're on a pretty flimsy chariot in the end game. Anyway, we saw Rakarth popping some shots up at Imrik early on and not really scratching him too heavily. So definitely would like to see Rakarth more on a Manticore, but I'm also down as well for seeing him, and no one really knows at this point what the meta is going to settle into. So good to see different people experimenting with him. Apart from that, the front line of Witch Elves obviously just slaughtered my own troops, not getting crazy damage value because they were only killing Rangers and Spearmen for the most part, although this unit here was the exception. 199 kills, 1,247 damage value, 12k damage dealt. Very impressive work there from the crazed lunatics of Cain. Harganeth Executions did a pretty decent job, once again not getting the most insane value because most of my build was relatively cheap and cheerful, apart from of course the mighty Imrik, who does take up all our cost here. Cold One Knights got good damage value across the board, over 1,127 there, which is pretty good. And the Dark Riders, despite my consistent pressure of trying to force them off the field, managed to get just under 900 damage value. Good work by them. Only 9 kills, but of course they're hurting the key targets. As for the big beasties, the War Hydra kind of struggled, and particularly the Black Dragon, which is an expensive piece of kit to bring to the battlefield. 123 damage value is an absolute disaster. Unfortunately, he didn't really have the tools to protect him in the air, and my opponent didn't know I was bringing Imrik, so unfortunately I forgot to switch to the Knights of Caledon, which simply the basic high elf standard there did trick my enemy. As for our own forces, the triple Illyrian Reavers did a solid job firing into the Witch Elves as well as the Dark Riders. Nearly 1,000 damage value on this one, 700 and nearly 1,000 once more. Real pivotal units in this build and making it work. As well were the Illyrian Reavers. Not the craziest damage value on these bad boys, 470 and 400. Decent damage value across the board, but of course their sacrificial sense to put their bodies on the line and save the Prince multiple times did enable me to carry the day in the end. Rangers likewise really struggled up against the Witch Elves. Same story, unfortunately, for the Spearmen. Doublecaster did okay. I mean, the Tempest was really key, and then the Healing and Flesh Stones were quite nice. But the mighty Imrik, the Dragon Prince, the carrier of the day, putting the rest of the build in his backpack, coming in with 15,773 damage dealt, 123 kills, 3,864 damage value. Still relatively healthy at the end game as well, so had plenty more left to give. Proving once and for all he's the true tamer of dragons, although he may suffer with other beasts. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace, and as always, stay awesome.